In the quiet spaces of your mind, there is a truth waiting to be realized, one that doesn't rely on the approval of others, nor the fleeting assurances of the external world. It is the truth of your own independence, the freedom that comes from within, not from without. The journey to this inner independence is not an escape from the world, but a deep dive into yourself. We are conditioned from an early age to seek validation outside of ourselves. We're taught that to feel whole, we need the acceptance, the praise, and the approval of others. But this search for validation is a trap. It places our sense of self in the hands of a world that is as transient as the wind. Developing independence within means letting go of this dependence on external voices. It means beginning to trust your own voice, the quiet one that always speaks when you're still enough to hear it. To trust yourself is to become self-reliant. True self-reliance is not about rejecting others or going it alone. It's about knowing that no matter the circumstances, you are capable of navigating the storms of life with your own inner strength. It's the belief that within you lies a reservoir of wisdom and courage that can be tapped into at any time. Now, to be self-reliant, you must first confront a key barrier: fear. Fear keeps us clinging to the opinions of others. Fear tells us that if we let go, we might fail. But the truth is, failure is not the enemy. The real enemy is the paralysis that comes from fearing failure. When you let go of that fear, you begin to experience life as it truly is, an unpredictable, uncontrollable flow. And in embracing this flow, you discover a deeper kind of freedom. We often believe that to control life's outcomes is to ensure our safety. But in truth, our attempts to control are what keep us bound. The more we try to dictate the future, the more dependent we become on things outside our control. Independence is found not in control, but in surrender. It's in the recognition that life will unfold as it will, and your power lies in how you respond, not in how you manipulate the circumstances. And yet, there's a subtle but profound distinction here. Developing independence within does not mean isolation. You are not separate from the world, but neither are you lost in it. There is a delicate balance between independence and interdependence. You can be connected to others, love them, share with them, while still maintaining your own sense of self. Independence is not about rejecting the bonds of human connection, but about recognizing that those connections do not define you. Your essence is your own. To cultivate this inner independence, you must also learn to master your mind. The mind, left unchecked, will often fill you with doubt, anxiety, and confusion. But when you take the reins of your own mind, when you observe its workings and gently guide it, you free yourself from its tyranny. You are no longer tossed about by every thought or emotion that arises. Instead, you remain anchored in your own center, steady and calm. Finally, there is solitude. Solitude is not something to fear or avoid. It is, in fact, the birthplace of true independence. In the quiet moments of solitude, you rediscover your essence. You hear your own thoughts, your own feelings, untainted by the noise of the world. And it is in these moments that you realize you are enough. You don't need external approval. You don't need to control, and you don't need to fear. In solitude, you find strength. And in that strength, true independence blooms. So let us move forward on this journey of independence within. Let us trust ourselves, face our fears, let go of control, and find beauty in our connection to others while standing firmly in our own power. The world outside may shift and change, but the strength you cultivate within is yours, and that is true freedom. True self-reliance begins with a deep trust in yourself, a belief that you possess the ability to navigate life's challenges without constantly seeking external guidance. It's not about isolating yourself from others or rejecting help when it's offered. Rather, it's about knowing at your core that you are capable of handling what life throws your way. This kind of self-reliance is a quiet confidence that stems from experience and self-awareness. As we go through life, we face countless decisions, both big and small. Each time we rely on our own judgment and intuition, we strengthen our internal compass. Every time we trust ourselves, we send a message deep within that says, I am enough. I have what it takes. But this trust in oneself isn't about always having the right answers. It's about having the courage to make decisions and live with the outcomes, whether they lead to success or failure. Self-reliance understands that failure is not something to be feared, but embraced as a teacher. Each misstep, each moment of uncertainty, brings with it lessons that deepen our wisdom. To be self-reliant is to recognize that no matter the outcome, you will learn, grow, and move forward. At its heart, self-reliance also means being comfortable with standing alone in your beliefs and decisions. It's easy to be swayed by the opinions and expectations of others, especially when they come from people we care about. But there are times when your path may diverge from what others think is best. In those moments, self-reliance asks that you remain true to yourself, trusting that your inner voice knows what is right for you, even if it contradicts the world around you. Yet this kind of independence doesn't mean you turn away from connection. Self-reliance allows you to engage with others from a place of strength, not need. It creates relationships that are based on mutual respect, where you are able to give and receive without losing your sense of self. You are not leaning on others for validation or direction, but instead sharing your journey with them from a place of wholeness. In a world that often promotes dependence on the opinions of others, on societal expectations, on material comforts, self-reliance is a radical act of trust. It is the choice to believe that everything you need to thrive already exists within you. When you cultivate self-reliance, you begin to move through life with a sense of inner freedom, knowing that, regardless of external circumstances, you have the strength to endure and the wisdom to choose your way forward. Liberation from external validation is a profound step toward inner freedom. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval from those around us, parents, teachers, friends, and society at large. We are taught that our worth is somehow tied to what others think of us, that their praise or criticism defines who we are. This creates an invisible chain, keeping us bound to the ever-changing opinions of the world. To free ourselves from this need for external validation is to step into a space where we no longer measure our worth by others' standards. It means recognizing that no amount of praise or approval can truly define your value. External validation is fickle. It shifts depending on moods, trends, and perspectives that are not always aligned with your truth. Living for that approval places your happiness and sense of self in the hands of forces beyond your control. Breaking free from this need involves a shift in perspective. Instead of looking outward for confirmation of who you are, you turn inward. You begin to trust in your own judgment, in the quiet inner voice that knows your worth without needing it echoed back to you by others. This shift doesn't mean you become indifferent to other people's thoughts, but rather that their opinions no longer have the power to shape your identity. You can listen, but you are no longer ruled by them. This kind of liberation is transformative because it allows you to live authentically. When we seek validation from others, we often mold ourselves to fit their expectations, sometimes betraying our true desires and values in the process. We become like actors on a stage, performing the role that others want us to play. But when you release yourself from this need, you step off the stage and live life as it is meant to be lived on your terms. Living authentically brings a deep sense of peace because you are no longer pulled in multiple directions by conflicting opinions and judgments. You are able to stand firm in your choices, knowing that they come from a place of self-awareness and inner alignment. The opinions of others may still swirl around you, but they no longer have the power to sway you off course. This freedom also leads to deeper, more meaningful connections. When we stop seeking validation, we no longer interact with others from a place of insecurity or neediness. Instead, we can engage from a place of wholeness, allowing for more genuine and honest relationships. We no longer need others to affirm us. We simply enjoy the connection for what it is, without strings attached. Ultimately, liberation from external validation is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that your worth and your happiness are entirely your own to define. When you stop relying on the world to tell you who you are, you find that you already know. And in that knowledge lies true freedom. Within each of us there exists an innate sense of direction, a subtle but reliable inner compass that, if we listen closely, can guide us through life's most complex decisions and challenges. This inner compass isn't governed by logic or external circumstances. Rather, it stems from a deeper knowing, an intuition that transcends the analytical mind. It's that feeling that rises from within when something is aligned with our truth or when something feels deeply off, even if we can't fully explain why. The challenge for many of us is learning to trust this internal guide. We live in a world that prizes rationality, logic, and external validation, often at the expense of intuition. We are taught to second-guess our feelings, to rely on data, facts, and the opinions of others instead of trusting our gut. But the inner compass operates differently. It speaks in quiet, often subtle ways through feelings, instincts, and moments of clarity that appear when we least expect them. The key to accessing it lies in stillness and attentiveness. Tuning into this compass requires us to quiet the noise of the external world, the opinions, the expectations, the distractions, and listen to what's happening within. This is not always easy. The world can be loud, demanding, and relentless in pulling our attention outward. But when we take moments to be still, to meditate, or simply to reflect, we create space for our inner compass to reveal itself. It may not always give us immediate answers, but it gently nudges us in the right direction, aligning us with our deeper purpose. What's important to remember is that this compass doesn't always lead us down the easiest or most comfortable path. Sometimes it points us toward challenges that we'd rather avoid or decisions that seem risky from a surface-level perspective. But this is where trust comes in. The inner compass is concerned with growth, authenticity, and alignment with our true selves, not with maintaining the status quo or keeping us in our comfort zones. To follow it often means embracing uncertainty, but with the understanding that it will ultimately lead us where we need to go. Many of us have experienced moments when we ignored this inner guidance, only to realize later that our intuition was right all along. Perhaps it was a job opportunity that looked perfect on paper but didn't feel right in our gut, or a relationship that we stayed in despite an internal sense that it wasn't truly aligned. In hindsight, these moments teach us that our inner compass is far more accurate than we sometimes give it credit for. Trusting it, even when it defies logic or external advice, is one of the most empowering acts we can undertake. But following the inner compass is not about rejecting reason or external input altogether. It's about integrating both balancing intuition with rational thought and making choices that resonate both intellectually and emotionally. The more we practice tuning in and trusting this internal guide, the stronger and clearer it becomes. Over time, it becomes second nature to rely on it, leading us to decisions that reflect our truest selves. Ultimately, the inner compass is a gift that allows us to navigate the complexities of life with greater ease and confidence. It's always there, waiting to be acknowledged, offering us a sense of direction that no map or external source can provide. When we learn to trust and follow it, we step into a life that is more authentic, more aligned, and more deeply fulfilling. Deep within every person lies a quiet yet profound sense of guidance and internal compass that, when trusted, can lead us through the complexities of life. This compass isn't made of rigid logic or the careful calculations we often rely on in day-to-day decisions. It's something far more instinctive, something that whispers rather than shouts. It comes from a place of deep knowing, one that doesn't require proof or explanation, but simply asks to be trusted. The inner compass manifests through feelings, hunches, and moments of clarity that arise when we stop trying to figure everything out intellectually. It's that unmistakable pull towards certain choices or directions that resonate deeply, even if they seem irrational or unclear to the outside world. Often it's a sense of ease or a quiet certainty that surfaces when we consider one path over another. And just as often it's the uneasy knot in your stomach when something isn't right, even if all outward signs point to a perfect situation. The difficulty for many of us is that we've been conditioned to prioritize external guidance over this internal knowing. We're taught to trust the opinions of experts, the expectations of society, and the seemingly clear logic of the mind. But the inner compass operates on a different frequency. It's a soft voice, easily drowned out by the noise of the world and the constant stream of information and advice coming at us. Learning to hear it requires a practice of quieting that noise, of turning inward and giving space to the subtler signals that arise from within. When we follow this inner compass, we find ourselves making choices that are more in tune with who we truly are. The decisions may not always be the easiest or the most obvious to others, but they are the ones that feel right at the core. This sense of rightness is something we can't explain logically but can feel in every fiber of our being. It's a deep alignment with our values, our desires, and our unique path in life. However, trusting this compass doesn't mean the road will always be smooth. Often the direction it points to may lead us through periods of discomfort, challenge, or uncertainty. It might ask us to step away from something familiar or to take a risk that feels daunting. But that's because the inner compass isn't concerned with keeping us comfortable. It's concerned with guiding us toward growth, authenticity, and fulfillment. And sometimes that journey requires navigating through unknown terrain. Many times we've all ignored the guidance of this inner compass, only to realize later that it was leading us in the right direction all along. Perhaps we stayed in a job or relationship that didn't feel aligned, clinging to external validation or logical reasoning to justify our choices. Only later in hindsight do we recognize that we knew all along the direction we needed to go. These moments of realization are powerful reminders that our inner compass is often more attuned to our true needs than we realize. Yet following this internal guidance isn't about rejecting external advice or facts altogether. It's about learning to balance both using reason and information when necessary, but ultimately trusting our own inner sense of what feels right. It's an integration of head and heart, where both can coexist harmoniously, guiding us toward decisions that feel both intellectually and emotionally aligned. Over time, as we practice tuning into this inner compass, it becomes easier to follow. Like a muscle, it strengthens the more we rely on it. We become more attuned to its signals, more aware of the subtle shifts in energy and feeling that accompany each decision. The more we trust it, the more we realize that it has been there all along, waiting patiently for us to listen. This inner compass is, in essence, our truest guide. It knows who we are, beyond the layers of expectation, fear, and doubt that often cloud our minds. It leads us toward a life that is not just successful in the conventional sense, but deeply fulfilling and authentic. And when we learn to trust and follow it, we find that it never leads us astray, guiding us ever closer to the person we are meant to become. Fear is a natural part of being human. It rises up whenever we step into the unknown or face situations that challenge us. But while fear is an unavoidable companion in life, it's how we respond to it that truly matters. Most often, fear keeps us stuck in patterns, stuck in places, stuck in relationships that no longer serve us. It whispers caution, warns of danger, and urges us to play it safe, to stay within the boundaries of what we know. Yet, it is precisely by facing fear that we unlock the door to our growth and true independence. At its core, fear is a protective mechanism. It evolved to keep us safe from harm, from threats in the environment that could endanger our survival. But in modern life, many of the fears we experience are psychological rather than physical. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, all of these are forms of fear that hold us back from taking risks, trying new things, or stepping outside the confines of our comfort zones. They often keep us trapped, not because the danger is real, but because the possibility of discomfort is enough to make us freeze. When we let fear dictate our actions, we hand over control. We allow it to define what we believe we are capable of, to limit our choices, and to guide our decisions. In this way, fear becomes a kind of prison, locking us into a narrow range of experiences, preventing us from exploring the full potential of our lives. We remain dependent on routines, on security, on the familiar, because we're afraid of what might happen if we venture beyond what we know. But the truth is, fear only has the power we give it. It grows when we avoid it, becoming larger and more intimidating the longer we keep it at bay. Yet the moment we turn and face it, something incredible happens. We begin to see it for what it truly is, a shadow, a projection of worst-case scenarios, rather than an insurmountable barrier. Fear thrives on avoidance, but it loses its grip when confronted directly. Facing fear is not about eliminating it altogether. We will always feel fear, especially when we push ourselves toward growth and new horizons. It's not the absence of fear that defines courage, but the willingness to act in spite of it. To face fear means to acknowledge its presence, but to move forward anyway, trusting that we are strong enough to handle whatever comes. In this way, fear transforms from an obstacle into a guide, showing us where our greatest opportunities for growth lie. When we face fear, we also begin to dissolve the illusions that keep us bound. Much of what we fear is rooted in imagined outcomes, scenarios that may never come to pass. The mind, in its effort to protect us, creates stories about what might go wrong, stories that, if left unchallenged, keep us from taking action. But when we step forward despite those stories, we often find that reality is far less frightening than our imagination made it out to be. The act of confronting fear shrinks it, showing us that we are capable of more than we once believed. Moreover, facing fear builds resilience. Each time we encounter fear and choose not to back down, we grow stronger. Our confidence increases, and we start to trust in our ability to navigate difficult situations. The more we confront fear, the more we expand our comfort zone, and what once seemed terrifying becomes manageable, even routine. It is through this process of continual engagement with fear that we grow into the fullest version of ourselves, no longer limited by old patterns of avoidance. Ultimately, fear is a signpost. It points toward the edges of our comfort, where true growth and transformation lie. By facing it, we develop a deeper sense of independence, not just from external circumstances, but from the inner voices that try to hold us back. When we confront fear head-on, we reclaim our power and open ourselves to new possibilities, discovering that the freedom we seek is often waiting on the other side of our greatest fears. We often live under the illusion that we can control the events of our lives, that if we plan carefully, prepare thoroughly, and anticipate every possible outcome, we can bend reality to fit our desires. This belief gives us comfort, providing a sense of order and predictability in an unpredictable world. But the truth is, control is largely an illusion. Our life, by its very nature, is fluid and ever-changing, moving according to its own rhythms, often outside the boundaries of our plans and expectations. We cling to the idea of control because it makes us feel safe. It allows us to believe that if we do everything right, we can avoid pain, failure, and disappointment. But in trying to control everything, we often find ourselves in a constant state of tension and anxiety, because deep down we know that much of what happens is beyond our grasp. We cannot control the actions of others, the twists of fate, or the natural course of events. No amount of careful. The tension between interconnectedness and independence is one of life's great paradoxes. On the one hand, we are deeply interwoven with the world around us. We exist within a web of relationships, societies, ecosystems, and influences that shape who we are and how we move through life. This interconnectedness is undeniable. Our actions affect others, and in turn we are affected by the actions, emotions, and choices of those around us. Our very survival depends on the cooperation and support of others, from the food we eat to the communities we live in. Yet, at the same time, we strive for independence. Independence in its truest sense is about self-reliance and the ability to stand on our own, to think and act according to our own values and intuition, unencumbered by the expectations or judgments of others. It's about developing a sense of inner strength, where we are not swayed by external forces or constantly seeking validation from the outside world. Independence allows us to carve our own paths and make choices that reflect our individual truth, rather than conforming to what society or others might expect of us. However, independence does not mean isolation. It is possible to maintain a strong sense of self while being fully engaged in the world and connected to others. In fact, true independence can only emerge when we recognize the depth of our interconnectedness and embrace it, not as a threat to our autonomy, but as a complement to it. To be independent doesn't mean cutting ourselves off from others. It means cultivating a sense of inner solidity while acknowledging that we are part of a larger whole. Interconnectedness teaches us humility. It reminds us that we are not solitary beings disconnected from the world, but rather participants in a shared existence. The air we breathe, the ground we walk on, the people we interact with, all are part of a larger system that we cannot escape. Our actions ripple outward, just as the actions of others ripple into our lives. To ignore this fact is to live in a state of delusion. But recognizing this interconnectedness doesn't diminish our independence, it enhances it by giving us a deeper understanding of our place in the world. The balance between these two forces, interconnectedness and independence, is delicate. We must learn to navigate relationships, communities, and the larger world without losing ourselves in them. It's about being able to connect deeply with others, share in their joys and sorrows, collaborate, and engage with the world while still holding on to our own sense of purpose and direction. Independence is not the absence of connection, but the ability to remain true to oneself while fully participating in the larger web of life. At its core, independence thrives when it is grounded in a deep awareness of interconnectedness. When we understand that we are part of a greater whole, we can act with both autonomy and compassion. Our choices become not only reflections of our inner desires and truths, but also take into account the impact they have on the world around us. We become more mindful, more thoughtful in our actions, knowing that independence is not about isolation, but about acting from a place of inner strength while embracing our shared humanity. In this way, interconnectedness and independence are not opposing forces, but complementary ones. They exist together, each enhancing the other. By embracing our interconnectedness, we gain a deeper sense of independence, one that is rooted in the understanding that true freedom comes from recognizing our place in the greater whole and navigating it with a clear sense of self. Through this balance, we can live a life that honors both our individuality and our responsibility to the world around us. Mastering the mind is one of the most profound undertakings in life. The mind, with its constant chatter, endless thoughts, and reactive tendencies, often seems to have a life of its own. It jumps from one thought to the next, pulls us into past regrets or future anxieties, and rarely settles in the present moment. And yet, it is through this very mind that we experience life, make decisions, and form our reality. To master it is not to control every thought or force it into silence, but to develop a deeper understanding and awareness of its nature. The mind can be both our greatest ally and our most persistent obstacle. When left unchecked, it tends to spin stories, generate fears, and hold on to limiting beliefs that prevent us from living fully. It clings to old patterns, resists change, and often focuses on what is lacking or could go wrong. This habitual thinking can keep us trapped in cycles of negativity, anxiety, and discontent. But when we begin the process of mastering the mind, we gain the ability to observe these patterns without being controlled by them. Mastery of the mind starts with awareness. It's about learning to step back and witness your thoughts rather than becoming entangled in them. This requires a practice of mindfulness, where you observe the ebb and flow of your thoughts without judgment or attachment. You begin to see that thoughts are just that, thoughts. They are not facts, and they don't have to dictate your reality. By cultivating this awareness, you create space between your thoughts and your reactions to them, allowing for greater clarity and calm. With this awareness, we can start to question the mind's stories. Often the mind operates on autopilot, recycling old beliefs and assumptions that may no longer serve us. It tells us who we are, what we are capable of, and what is possible in life based on past experiences or conditioning. But much of this mental narrative is based on illusion or fear. By examining the mind's stories and challenging their validity, we can begin to rewrite the script. We no longer have to be limited by the mind's narrow perspective. Part of mastering the mind is also learning to direct it. Instead of allowing it to wander aimlessly, reacting to every stimulus and thought that arises, we can train it to focus on what truly matters. This requires discipline, but not in the sense of forcing the mind into submission. Rather, it's about gently guiding it toward more constructive and empowering thoughts. Meditation and mindful concentration are key tools in this process, helping to sharpen the mind's ability to focus and remain present. Over time, as we develop this mastery, we become less reactive to the external world. Situations that once triggered us or caused emotional turmoil no longer have the same hold over us, because we've learned to manage the mind's reactions. We realize that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This is the essence of mental freedom, knowing that our peace and stability come from within, rather than being dependent on external circumstances. Ultimately, mastering the mind is not about achieving some ideal state of constant peace or quiet. It's about developing a relationship with the mind where we are no longer ruled by it. We become the observer, the one who can choose which thoughts to engage with and which to let go. In this way, the mind becomes a powerful tool for creativity, problem solving, and insight, rather than a source of constant distraction or stress. Through this mastery, we begin to live more consciously. We make choices from a place of clarity and intention, rather than being driven by unconscious habits or fears. Life becomes richer and more vibrant as we learn to direct our mental energy toward what truly matters, letting go of the noise and clutter that once dominated our inner world. The mind, when mastered, becomes a gateway to deeper understanding, inner peace, and true freedom. There is a profound beauty in solitude, a state where one is alone but not lonely. It is in these moments of being with oneself that we can experience a deep sense of harmony, free from the distractions and demands of the outside world. In solitude, we are given the opportunity to connect with our inner self, to listen to the quiet voice within, and to explore the vastness of our own being. This is not an escape from life, but rather a journey into the heart of it, where we can gain clarity, perspective, and a deeper sense of peace. Many people fear solitude, associating it with isolation or abandonment. But true solitude is not about being cut off from others, it is about cultivating a relationship with oneself. In the quiet of solitude, we can reflect without interference, feel without judgment, and simply be without the need for external validation. It is in these spaces of stillness that we come to realize that much of the noise we experience in life is unnecessary, and that within ourselves exists a reservoir of calm and insight. Solitude offers a unique kind of freedom. When we are alone, we are free from the expectations and pressures of others. We are no longer performing or conforming to external roles. Instead, we are able to reconnect with our authentic selves. This is where we can rediscover our true desires, our passions, and our purpose, unclouded by the opinions or judgments of the world. In solitude, we come home to ourselves. Harmony in solitude comes from accepting and embracing our own company. It is about learning to enjoy the stillness, to appreciate the quiet, and to find contentment in the simplicity of being alone. This doesn't mean shutting ourselves off from relationships or the world, but rather cultivating a sense of completeness within ourselves so that we no longer seek fulfillment from external sources. When we find peace in solitude, we no longer need constant distractions or approval from others to feel whole. Solitude also invites introspection and self-discovery. In the quiet, we are able to see ourselves more clearly, to face our fears, our desires, and our thoughts without distraction. This introspective space allows for growth as we gain a deeper understanding of who we are and what we truly want. It is in solitude that we can process emotions, heal from past experiences, and realign with our inner truth. It is a time for nurturing the soul, for giving ourselves the attention and care that we so often give to others. Moreover, solitude fosters creativity and inspiration. Many of the greatest ideas, works of art, and personal breakthroughs are born in moments of quiet reflection. When we step away from the noise of the world and enter into the stillness of solitude, our minds have the freedom to wander, to imagine, and to explore new possibilities. In this space, we can tap into deeper levels of creativity that are often inaccessible in the midst of daily distractions. Finding harmony in solitude is ultimately about balance. It's not about withdrawing from the world permanently, but about understanding the value of time spent alone. In solitude, we recharge and realign so that when we return to the world, we do so with a clearer mind and a fuller heart. It's about creating space for both connection and introspection, knowing that both are essential for a rich and balanced life. In the end, solitude teaches us that we are never truly alone. Even in moments of physical isolation, we are connected to the deeper currents of life, to the essence of who we are, and to the world around us in ways that transcend physical presence. Solitude is a gateway to inner harmony, a place where we can find peace, clarity, and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit. In a world that often champions noise over stillness and dependence over independence, the journey toward developing inner independence becomes a transformative path. We have explored the vital aspects of self-reliance, liberation from external validation, the power of the inner compass, the courage to face fear, the recognition of the illusion of control, the balance of interconnectedness and independence, the mastery of the mind, and the harmony found in solitude. Each of these elements contributes to the overarching theme of inner independence, encouraging us to look within and cultivate a life that reflects our authentic selves. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that true independence is not an endpoint, but a continuous process of self-discovery and growth. It invites us to trust our instincts, confront our fears, and embrace the uncertainty of life. By mastering our minds and nurturing our inner compass, we unlock the freedom to navigate our paths with clarity and purpose. In the quiet moments of solitude, we find the space to connect with our deepest selves, where we can reflect on our experiences, process our emotions, and draw inspiration for the road ahead. Ultimately, developing independence within is about recognizing the richness of our inner world and understanding that we have the power to shape our lives. It is about creating a harmonious relationship between ourselves and the world around us, embracing both our individuality and our interconnectedness with others. As we step forward, may we do so with courage, wisdom, and a profound sense of purpose, knowing that the journey toward inner independence is the gateway to a life of authenticity, fulfillment, and true freedom.